The Billings Ovulation Method, a natural method of fertility regulation. A natural way to achieve pregnancy, postpone or avoid pregnancy, and to monitor reproductive health. This method is easy to learn, it's simple to use, involves no drugs or devices, and therefore there are no side effects. It's a reliable method, and it's morally acceptable to all cultures. When we talk about fertility, we're talking about fertility of the male and of the female. Male fertility begins at puberty with the start of sperm production and continues throughout life. Female fertility also begins at puberty but is cyclic, with the woman being potentially fertile for a few days to about a week each cycle, and her fertility declines to finish at menopause. Male fertility plus female fertility equals couple fertility, the ability to have a baby. It is because the woman's fertility is variable that she needs to be able to understand and identify confidently the different phases of her cycle. Firstly, she needs to understand the function of her reproductive organs. Women are born with 2 ovaries, which contain millions of immature ova or eggs. During each cycle from menarche to menopause, 1 or more eggs will mature and develop and be released at ovulation. The ovaries produce the hormones estrogen and progesterone, which control other aspects of the woman's fertility. The fallopian tubes lead from the ovaries to the uterus. It is through these tubes that the sperm have to travel to reach and fertilize the ovum or egg if conception is to occur. Then the fertilized ovum, the embryo, must travel back along the tube to the uterus, where it will implant and the baby will grow. The endometrium, under the influence of the ovarian hormones, develops during each cycle and is shed at menstruation if no conception occurs. The cervix is the neck of the uterus. It has a vital role to play in fertility, for it is there that the mucus is produced, which can keep sperm alive in a woman's body until they can reach and fertilize the egg. This is also controlled by the ovarian hormones. The vulva is at the exterior of the woman's body, outside the vaginal opening. It is highly sensitive, and the woman using the Billings Method learns to tune into the sensations felt at the vulva as she goes about her daily activities. She feels the presence of mucus, which has flowed down from the cervix, and this alerts her that she is in her fertile phase. The vagina leads from the vulva to the cervix and uterus. It is where sperm cells are deposited at ejaculation and the passage whereby a baby enters the world in a natural birth. The pockets of Shaw are situated low in the vagina. Controlled by progesterone, which rises just prior to ovulation, they extract moisture out of any mucus passing through the vagina, thus alerting the woman to the rise in her progesterone that accompanies ovulation and hence her peak fertility. To use the Billings ovulation method, a woman must keep a daily record. She records at the end of each day the observations she has made throughout the day. These observations are of her sensations experienced at the vulva and any discharge she may have seen as she goes about her normal activities. She does not need to touch the vulva or the mucus or make any internal examination to make these observations, as this will lead to confusion. The observations are recorded on the chart at the end of each day and reflect the most fertile characteristic experienced that day. She uses her own words to describe what she feels and any discharge seen. There are 2 systems of charting that can be applied: coloured stamps or a system of symbols. These are added to the chart to give a visual representation of the pattern observed. The cycle begins with menstruation as the endometrium is shed. The woman is familiar with the feeling of wetness caused by blood as it arrives at the vulva. It is the awareness of this vulval sensation that is the basis of the Billings ovulation method. She records the sensation of wetness on her chart and applies a red stamp or the symbol of a large dot. As menstruation diminishes, she may recognize a change in the sensation to stickiness or dryness. In most cycles following menstruation, a dense plug will form in the cervix. The woman will notice an absence of mucus. This plug is impenetrable to sperm and also protects the reproductive system against infection. The sperm cells die off quickly. The couple is infertile. The ovaries are inactive. There is no mucus flowing from the cervix, so the vulva feels dry. This phase of the cycle is called the basic infertile pattern, which is an unchanging pattern. If the woman feels dry and sees no discharge, it is recorded with a green stamp or the symbol of a vertical stroke. Another woman may experience an unchanging pattern of discharge which stays the same day after day and cycle after cycle. This is her basic infertile pattern. In cycles of average length, it is caused by small fragments breaking off the lower part of the plug, resulting in this slight discharge. At this time, the couple is infertile. In the first cycle of charting, this discharge is recorded with a baby stamp or the symbol of a circle. In subsequent cycles, when the pattern is seen to be unchanging from cycle to cycle, it is recorded with a yellow stamp or an equals sign. 3 cycles are recorded to ensure the woman can identify the first point of change in sensation and/or the appearance of the discharge. As for the woman who is dry, there is no entry of sperm during this basic infertile pattern. The basic infertile pattern for a woman with an average length cycle will be either dry or an unchanging discharge. The fertile phase of the cycle begins when the ovaries start to produce estrogen as the egg develops. Estrogen now stimulates the cervix, causing it to produce a particular type of mucus, which dislodges the dense plug. The woman notices a change in her observations. Sperm can now enter the cervix. The couple is potentially fertile. Sensation is recorded with a baby stamp or circle. The woman with a basic infertile pattern of unchanging discharge will also notice a change at the vulva when fertility begins. As the ovaries produce increasing amounts of estrogen, the woman will notice a changing pattern. The mucus becomes progressively wetter and then slippery, and she may see clear strings of mucus. The maximum amount of mucus may diminish, but the slippery sensation may continue for a day or two. The last day of the slippery sensation is called the peak day. It is the most fertile day in the cycle and occurs very close to the time of ovulation. The peak day, the last day of the slippery sensation, may be associated with increased sensitivity, fullness and softness of the vulva. Progesterone is now starting to be produced. Ovulation is about to occur. The woman no longer feels lubricative at the vulva. The slipperiness is gone and she may feel dry or sticky. On this day of change, peak is recognized as the last day of the slippery sensation. She marks the peak day on her chart with a cross at a count of 1 on the day of change. Ovulation occurs on the peak day in the majority of cycles, but may be delayed until day 1 or day 2 past the peak. The egg will live for 12 to 24 hours. During these 3 days past the peak, the plug of mucus reforms in the cervix. Sperm may still enter the cervix until the end of the 3rd day. The 3 days past the peak are marked with a numbered green or yellow baby stamp or relevant symbol, depending whether she is dry or has a discharge. The final phase of the cycle, from ovulation to menstruation, is called the luteal phase. From the 4th day past the peak, the cervix is closed and sperm cannot enter. Unless conception occurred, the egg is already dead. Fertility is over for this cycle. The remainder of the cycle is charted with plain green or yellow stamps or the relevant symbols, depending whether the woman is dry or has a discharge. The cycle ends with menstruation. In a fertile cycle, menstruation occurs 11 to 16 days after ovulation. The plug has once more left the cervix to allow for the flow of blood. The woman now starts a new line on her chart to show the beginning of a new cycle. The Billings ovulation method, based on the science of reproduction and the simplicity of the woman's observations, has 4 rules. 3 early day rules, the peak rule. First early day rule: avoid intercourse on days of heavy bleeding during menstruation. This is because in a short cycle, fertility may begin before the bleeding has finished, thus obscuring the presence of mucus. Second early day rule: alternate evenings are available for intercourse because these days have been recognized as the basic infertile pattern. The couple should wait until evening so that the woman is up and active long enough for the mucus to flow down to where she can feel it at the vulva. If the couple has intercourse in the evening, the woman will feel damp and see seminal fluid the next day. She should not assume that there is no mucus present. The couple waits for a day so that the basic infertile pattern can be confirmed before intercourse is again available in the evening. This applies whether the basic infertile pattern is one of dryness or of discharge. Third early day rule: avoid intercourse on days of discharge or bleeding, which interrupts the basic infertile pattern. Allow 3 days of basic infertile pattern afterwards, before intercourse is resumed on the 4th evening using the second early day rule. Early day rule 3 is used in every cycle when the change from the basic infertile pattern occurs. If the change proceeds to a peak, the peak rule will be applied. If the peak was not recognized, the change reflects an interruption to the basic infertile pattern caused by raised estrogens. The couple waits for the duration of the change until the basic infertile pattern is again recognized. They then wait a further 3 days of the basic infertile pattern before resuming intercourse, applying the second early day rule. This chart demonstrates correct application of the third early day rule when ovulation has been delayed. The woman has a basic infertile pattern of dryness. On day 8, she noticed a change. The couple waits, and when the BIP is resumed on day 11, the count begins. A further change occurs on day 12. Again, the couple waits until the BIP returns on day 13, and the count of 1, 2, 3 is applied. Day 17 shows another change to the BIP. The rule is applied. When bleeding interrupts the BIP on day 28, the woman knows this is not menstruation because she has not recognized a peak. The third early day rule is again applied. The peak rule. From the beginning of the 4th day past the peak until the end of the cycle, intercourse is available every day at any time. If the intention is to avoid pregnancy, this allows time for the egg to have been released and to have died before intercourse is resumed. Ovulation will not occur again until the next cycle. The Billings ovulation method is an observation of patterns. Potential fertility is recognized by a changing, developing pattern of variable length. Infertility is recognized by the unchanging nature of the pattern. The Billings method can be used to assist couples wishing to achieve pregnancy. The early day rules are applied to enable the couple to recognize the beginning of potential fertility. It is then recommended that intercourse be postponed until the sensation becomes slippery, which occurs close to the time of peak fertility. Intercourse over this time of slippery sensation and for 1 or 2 days following the peak will maximize the chances of conception. The Billings Method is a reliable, natural means of avoiding pregnancy. A great deal of scientific research has proved the validity of the rules. The early day rules are applied before ovulation, and the peak rule is applied following ovulation. The Billings ovulation method is scientifically valid, yet is simple to use whether the intention is to achieve or avoid pregnancy. The keeping of an accurate chart and the correct application of the 4 rules will enable the couple to manage their fertility naturally. It can be effectively used throughout all stages of reproductive life, including following childbirth or miscarriage, while breastfeeding, approaching menopause, or when coming off contraceptive medication, whether cycles are long or short, regular or irregular. Independent international trials have shown the Billings ovulation method to be better than 99% effective for avoiding pregnancy when the guidelines have been followed. Couples using the Billings ovulation method to plan their family naturally can attest to its many benefits. It is the most thoroughly scientifically researched method of family planning available today. It empowers couples with a knowledge of their joint fertility. With knowledge comes understanding and respect for the potential of their fertility with its life-giving capacity. Both partners are involved in joint decision-making about their fertility, giving them the freedom to choose in each cycle whether they use the method to achieve or avoid pregnancy. As it is completely natural, there are no unhealthy side effects when using the Billings method. But more than this, the charting reflects the woman's reproductive health, alerting her to any abnormality often before other symptoms are revealed. Thus she will seek medical assistance at an early stage, when treatment is most likely to be effective. Because the method demands that the couple work together to achieve their goals, it enhances the relationship by increasing communication, mutual respect and love. The gentle discipline of abstinence ensures they don't take each other for granted and keeps their relationship fresh and new. In order to ensure success when using this method, the woman must make daily observations and chart accurately at the end of each day. It is best if both partners are motivated and there is loving cooperation in achieving their joint goals for their family. The use of the Billings method to avoid pregnancy requires times of waiting without intercourse over the fertile time. The Billings method is incompatible with the practice of withdrawal or the use of barrier methods of contraception such as condoms. Such practices obscure the behavior of the mucus and make consistently accurate observations impossible. Doctors John and Evelyn Billings of Melbourne, Australia, have developed the Billings ovulation method over more than 50 years in collaboration with other marriage counsellors, medical scientists and the couples themselves. Where possible, the couple will derive benefit from consulting a trained teacher of the Billings method, who can assist them to interpret the woman's individual pattern of fertility and infertility. Start charting today. Teaching centres are located in many countries throughout the world, details of which can be found on the website at www.woomb.org, which also contains a great deal more information about the Billings method, including a list of all the authentic literature. Specialised programs for health professionals and educators are available. If you would like to become a Billings ovulation method teacher, please make contact with us for details. You can also contact us by email, fax or telephone